be your host for today. We want to thank you all for coming out to our Lunch and Learn Port St. Lucie location. We do have a lot of information for you all. Hopefully you learn a lot. We do ask that you do save your questions for the end. So, if you need a pen or something like that to write something down, piece of paper, notepad in your phone, whatever is easiest for you, we can get that for you so that you can hold the questions to the end. We do have a few speakers today that will be touching on numerous things in the funeral aftercare industry. Okay. So before I get started, I'll tell you a little bit about us. This is our Port St. Lucie location. Most of you are already familiar with some of the staff that are here, but I'm going to go ahead and reintroduce them so that you can get reacquainted. First, I'm going to start off with Ms. Jackson. Everyone wave to Ms. Jackson. Then we also have Ms. Martin. And then we do have Mr. Charles Spates. He is the licensed funeral director here in charge, so most of you may be familiar with him. And then also we have myself. I'm in the Lauderdale Lakes branch down an hour and a half away. So we're grateful to be here. Then we also have Miss Lucy Thomas. She's our funeral director down in Lauderdale Lakes. And Mrs. Macarabell. She's also one of our licensed funeral directors as well. And Mr. Elijah Bell, also here. So it is customary for us at Bell's to at least offer a word of prayer. Before we traditionally start anything, and we're going to ask Mr. Bell to come in and grace us with that. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for coming out. Thank you for sharing your time with us, and let's begin with a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. For this is the day that the Lord has made, and we shall rejoice and be glad in it. We thank you, Lord God, for these, your people. We think that this information should be a blessing and a help to our community and to our people. We thank you, Lord God, that everything that we're doing, that you still get the praise for it. We thank you, Lord God, that this meeting is blessed. In Jesus' name, let all God's people say amen. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bell, for that. So we are going to get started with our first presenter. Excited. This is part of the reason that we're all here. Pre-need knowledge, information, what to do, what not to do, just some general information. So I am going to welcome Mrs. Bell, licensed funeral director and pre-need counselor. So if we can just give her a nice warm welcome. She will be discussing all things pre-need. Like I said, it's a lot of good information, so take notes, okay?
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Okay, like I said, my name is Makara Bell, and I'm one of the licensed funeral directors here at Bell's Funeral Home. Primarily, I'm located in the Fort Lauderdale area, Lauderdale Lakes branch. A little bit about us. We have 3 locations in Florida. Our Fort Lauderdale location was our first location, and then we have the Pembroke Pines location, and Port St. Lucie is our 3rd location. And also in Alabama, we have a funeral home in Huntsville, Alabama. I also do insurance, so I am a licensed insurance agent, and I sell pre-need for the funeral home. And pre-need is near and dear to me. I love it. I love people, so I love to help people. And people always like, well, how do you do this job? And do you like it? And I love it. I love it. I love it. I wouldn't trade it for it because I get to help people. So I'm going to be brief, but I'm going to try to give as much information as I can, and then afterwards we can open up with some questions at the end. So benefits of pre-planning, and I say this is the talk of the lifetime, because knowing exactly how you want to be remembered is important. It's important how you want to be remembered, not how you think how your spouse thinks you want to be remembered, how your children think that you want to be remembered. How do you want to be remembered? And who can tell the story better than you? So while you're here, alive, able to speak, well-bodied, come in and let's start talking about steps that you want to happen in your service. And maybe you want a memorial service. You don't want to be present. Maybe you want to have a traditional burial, a traditional service with a pastor, or maybe you just want to have a celebration of life. We can take care of all of these aspects here for you. So it's not a cookie cutter situation. All funerals are not the same. And who better to know how they want to be remembered than themselves, correct? So a lot of times we have families that are large families that have multiple siblings, and they sometimes are on the same page, but a lot of times, to be honest, they're not on the same page. So if you are gone and you leave 3 or 4 children who are not on the same page, one, the funeral home is stuck in the middle. Okay, it happens all the time. We're stuck in the middle to basically say, okay, we have to like go this way or go this way. Who's in charge? All of your children basically have the same authority. So if they say, well, mom doesn't want to be cremated, and you have another saying, just one out of the 4 saying mom does want to be cremated, we can't go forward with the cremation because everybody has to be on the same page. So that's just an example. So by pre-planning, mom comes in with her children or without her children and lays out everything she wants. I do want to be cremated. I do have a will. I set up all my prearrangements. I paid for my prearrangements in full. There's no doubt. It removes all doubt and disbelief on what mom really wanted. Mom wanted pink flowers. No, my favorite color is yellow. So I'm going to have yellow flowers. So pre-planning gives you and your family a sense of relief. You don't have to wonder. You take it out of the guessing game. Protect you and your family from rising funeral costs. Inflation happens. Inflation happens. Yesterday's price is not going to be today's price. You can't get around it. So like I was talking on a drive up, Miss Lucy, I just asked her, I said, well, where are you going to be buried? And she said, she has many places. She bought a plot for $700 years ago. $700. Now that same plot that she bought for $700 is now about $5,000. Okay, so she bought a couple for $700. So that's still the same thing with funeral homes and pre-planning. Once you come out, pick your price, it is what it is. You start making payments, you secure it, and in the future, it doesn't matter. 15, 20 years from now, you're locking it in. You're locking the price in. You're going to be safe from inflation. You don't have to worry about that. And same thing with cemeteries as well. If you can, always pre-plan at the cemetery as well if you know you want to be buried. Don't say, okay, well, I have time, or I can wait a couple years. Here's the thing. Waiting a couple years, one, the cemetery might be out of space. If you buried your spouse or your significant other or whomever, and you say, I want to be buried next to them, if you're waiting 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, there's a chance that that spot won't be available. So you have to really think about that. If you know you want to be buried in a specific cemetery, inquire about pre-planning. Secure your space so that way you know that there's not a chance of them overselling or you're misplaced not next to the person you want. Oh, I just want to be scattered at sea for a cremation. That's possible, but a funeral home has to take care of your remains. So anything that's required with the disposition of your remains, a funeral home has to do it. So, well, we don't have to scatter you, but we have to actually cremate you first, and then you can be scattered at sea if that's what you want. So anything regarding that, I have a lot of clients that say, well, I'm going to be buried at home or out of the country. Okay, well, we have to take you there. We have to physically have you, prepare your body, and send you wherever. So anything that you can possibly think of, the funeral home has to play some type of part. And empower your family. Like I said, it empowers your family. I have a lot of families that come in that's the plan and then the unplanned. You know, life happens. You don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. So a family that comes in and says, hey, I have mom pre-planned her services 5, 6 years ago, and I need help. That's fine. That's the best. They come in, okay, let's look at your things. Okay, mom picked out everything she wants. Aunt picked out everything she wants. Uncle picked out everything he wanted. All we have to do is secure the date, the time, and the location. That's it. And you just show up. Versus passing that happened accidentally or something just out of the blue or just something that wasn't planned. And you come in dealing with the grief of trying to plan a service when this trauma just happened. It's a lot. one, you're not making the best decision. Maybe you're not making the best financial decision, because maybe you're going to say, oh, I want to spend $20,000. I want to spend $30,000 because I want to give he or she the best, because I think. You're not thinking with a clear head, because everything we do have stuff that you can spend 20, 30,000. We do, but would you still spend that much if you did it years ago or the day before, when you're actually at a clear thinking and you're not thinking about grief and thinking about all these things? Yeah, it's a lot of stuff to think about. So I do encourage pre-planning. It can save you and your family from dealing with unnecessary stress. Dealing with someone who passed away, it's a lot. When my brother passed away, it was sudden. And we didn't have, my mom, she didn't have pre-planning. He died at 29. So she never thought to plan for her son's passing. Not even insurance like that, because he had a job, he had insurance, but it was nothing like planned. So what did she do? She went out and she bought 7 or 10 graves at the time, because she wanted all of us to be together, and she just spent a lot at once because she was not thinking right. But and grief, like I said, when my brother passed, I wasn't in a state to even think about anything. If I don't even know how my mom did it, because for me as a sister, I could not think straight. I did not know what was going on. I don't even remember the funeral. So I do know that she must have been going through an immense amount of pressure and stress. So pre-planning, again, could kind of help her a little bit. List your thoughts. Disposition. We all have in the book, which I think is a great planning guide. It's my planning guide. How do I want to be remembered? Everybody has this. This is amazing. I love it because the first page here is vital statistics. It's going to give us, the funeral home, so much information, and your family information about you and your financial affairs, that all you have to do is kind of just hand it over, and then we can go from there. Vital statistics. Whenever we do the funeral, whenever we get whenever a person passes away, we have to process the death certificate. And a lot of questions, sometimes the person who's arranging it does not know. So where the person was born, what's their highest level of education, were they ever in the armed forces, all these things that you may think is common, a lot of people don't know it. So sometimes we have to put unknown on the death certificate, or the Social Security, something as simple as the Social Security. A lot of people don't know it. So sometimes we have to put all 9s. And parents' information, your parents' information. You may think that your children or someone will know your parents' information. They don't a lot of the times. So this information is amazing because you're leaving all that information that they need to know right there. Emergency contacts, who to be notified, financial and banking information. Great tool, great tool. My mom, we were just talking about this on the ride, that anytime she would go out of town, she has like a master list of all her bank accounts, beneficiaries, anything you could think of. And she would always email it to me as soon as if she updates it, she emails it to me, because passwords to her computer, anything that you know that it'll be difficult for someone to access, write it down. And this here, I like it. She did it on a Word document. If you don't want to use this, fine, but at least write it down and let someone know how to access it, because someone passes away, you don't even know how to get into their phone, you can't get into their email, you have people trying to get payment. It's a lot of stuff that goes into it. So if you have it in here, it makes it more easier for people. Memorial instructions in your writing, what you want. And then there's also a cost estimate sheet. So if you were to come in and do pricing, we could write out some stuff. There's also important information here about the Social Security, Veterans Administration. Ms. Lucy will touch on that. Will, probate, living trust. Just some basic information for you that's very vital. Personal thoughts from my obituary. I like this one. I have a lot of clients now recently, which I love though, that they're planning out their whole service and they're like, well, Ms. Bell, can I even just bring my outfit? I'm like, well, you save the outfit, you bring it, you have somebody else bring it. But they're providing their own obituary. They're writing out exactly what they want in their obituary. I have a file for their pictures. This is the cover photo because I know my daughter's not going to be able to pick a nice photo of me. Please save this for me. So we printed it out and it's in their folder. I need only sunflowers. Please don't let them put tulips in my caskets, right? Like I get all types of things, but I love it because because I'm telling you, when I sit with families and their next of kin, I don't know. And they beat themselves up because they don't know. And then the argument starts and it's just a lot. So pre-planning, whether it's for your parents, your grandparents, yourself, at least that you'll know that you have the person here, you can ask them questions. What do you like? Or even, ask your family, what do you like? What's your favorite color? You might have thought that grandma's favorite color was blue and it's pink. You know what I mean? So just ask questions. Just have the talk of a lifetime. Just start talking. Record the person. If you have elderly parents or grandparents, what I started doing too is I started recording her. Just having basic conversation because these memories are so good. Like when you want to have the viewing and you want to play it and he or she is talking to, everybody. So just try to do stuff like that can preserve people's memories. So that's really good. Funeral services. Do you want to be cremated, buried? Do you want a memorial service? These are things that will come up. We talked about the personal facts for vital statistics. Music selection, did all of that. A good thing about it is the payment structure. We use two companies one is Great Western Insurance Company and one is FSI Trust. So whenever you pre-plan services with the funeral home, we hold your money in a trust. And what does that do? That prevents, if we were to ever go out of business, if you were ever to move away, it's basically like a pre-planned insurance policy with an actual insurance policy number associated to each individual. It can't be transferred, so it's for each person. And say you're going to New York, you're moving to New York, you're going to take this plan, let's say $7,000, and say, okay, well, I planned with Bell's Funeral Home for $7,000, but we end up moving, so I want to use this here. Every funeral home will take it. So you're safe with that. You say, okay, well, if their services are $5,000 in New York, you're going to get a check back for $2,000. If it's more, you're just going to have to pay the difference. So that's a good thing about the policy. You do have an option to pay monthly. You can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. It's a fixed interest rate of 4% if you want to do the monthly payments. If you want to pay it off in full, you can. But that's a good tool, again, if you want to secure. Now people say, well, I have life insurance and I don't want to get the pre-planned insurance. Okay, we can do that. So you can do what is called a non-funded pre-need. Basically, you're telling us what you want, but you're not funding it. So what that means is that any price when you pass away, it's still going to be at that market's price, that today market's price. The only way you can secure it is if you make monthly payments or you pay it in full. You can use your insurance policy later to fund it. So whoever your beneficiary is, they can be able to use it to fund it. But just know that you're not locking in that price that it was when you first sat down with me or whoever. Does that make sense? Okay. If you have, depending on how much your life insurance is, you have to really think about it because if you want a traditional burial, I know that the market over south is for a burial, just the plots and the opening and closing. You have some cemeteries that are $8,500, so $8,500 just for the burial space. Okay, and then you have to put on the funeral services. So depending on how much your policy is, you need to make sure that it can withstand inflation. Okay. some other quick tips. Create a notification list. You don't know how many times we get clients or family members that call us and have been calling around and saying, I need to know if my so-and-so has a policy with you guys, a pre-plan. And they're like, can you refer at least 5 more funeral homes that you think I could call? Because you know what happens? They plan, the person planned, but they never told anyone. They never told anyone. So now you have your family going on like a wild goose chase trying to figure, like, I know mom said she planned something. I know auntie said she planned something, but we can't find any documentation. You have to let someone know, more than one person, know that, hey, I have a plan, it's such and such here. Normally what I do is once I meet with the families, I make a couple copies. I do like 3 or 4 copies of the contract so that they can give it to about 3 or 4 different people. So that any given time, God forbid, if something happens to them, hey, yeah, well, she has a plan at Belle's Funeral Home, and so it makes it easier for them. I think I touched a lot of information, right? Did I miss anything? Yeah, Ms. Lucy will touch on a lot of different items as far as life insurance as well, since it's a part of the funeral services pre-planning kind of thing. You want to make sure you don't make a child a beneficiary. We see that a lot. I know I was, when I first got married and we had children, my kids were like, when they became like 2 or 3, I made them the beneficiary of the policy because I just felt, I want to do something for my kids. But that doesn't make sense, because if, in fact, that you're going to use that life insurance policy for your funeral, the kid who is not 18 years old does not have access to it. So therefore, you're going to have that whole life insurance and can't use it for the funeral until that person turns 18. So you always want to make sure that even if you do have the child as a beneficiary, you have another beneficiary added on that can make financial decisions and pay for your services. All right, thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Mrs. Bell, for that valuable information. Like I said, keep your questions. She'll be glad to answer. We'll have them come back up as the questions occur. So she did talk about life insurance briefly. I just wanted to piggyback on that because a lot of us already have life insurance, and we do put our kids and minors for the most part as the beneficiaries, or we may put our spouses as the beneficiary, and then we realize that they're not our spouse anymore, but we keep them there. Funny situation. This gentleman passed away, and his ex-wife now is still the beneficiary of his policy. Well, unfortunately for him and the rest of the family, it's her money now. So whatever money they thought was going to go towards their services will be going towards whatever she decides she wants to do with it. Now, you would think someone would probably do the right thing, but essentially that's their money at this point. And we've seen it over and over again. Oh, grandma left me this money, so it's mine, you guys figure it out. Or, oh yeah, I'll give you the policy information, and by that time the services are done and they have to figure out how to pay for it. And so just be mindful about your life insurance and who you have left as your beneficiary, because that's very, very, very important. Review your affairs on a consistent basis, because things do change, and marital statuses change, children, things of that sort changes. So double check who's your beneficiaries and make sure you still want them as your beneficiary. If not, make those changes now. Make sure that the information on your life insurance policy is correct, like your age is correct. I've seen that a lot of times too, where they'll come in with the policy and they're thinking that they're going to get a certain amount of money, but their birth date is off by a couple years. Therefore, what they're actually going to pay out is a little bit different than what they're actually thought they were going to pay out. So those type of things are important as well. Make sure all those things match. So little tip. Also, funny thing with the pre-need, I do see it frequently where they are actually coming in with their obituaries already written, clothes ready to be handed in. One of the gentlemen that I know, he came in and he gave me his picture. He's like, okay, well, all you have to do is add the sunset That's all you have to do, and make sure you don't use this picture. I'm like, wow, this is very interesting, but very good, because I know everyone else knows, his wife knows. He spread the knowledge about it, and the reason why he came in the first place because his mom did a pre-need with us, and when he came and said, "Oh well, my mom passed away. I heard she had a pre-need here." She did the right thing by explaining it. All he had to do is like, I just had to buy a suit for myself and show up. Everything was paid for. He was able to enjoy the services. He was stress free. He didn't have to do anything. So he wanted the same thing for his family and his friends when they had to, do his final resting. So the next presenter we have coming up is going to be discussing quite a few things. They're going to be discussing trusts, wills, probates, very lightly, and then also one of our favorite topics, veterans. A lot of people don't know a lot of the benefits that veterans do have, and we take pride here at Bell's Funeral Services, really honoring our veterans, giving them information and their families and everyone that they leave behind, because there's so much information out there that we just don't know. And Miss Lucy, she's actually a spouse of a veteran, so she definitely does her research, and she knows from A to Z and where to send you. So if we can please give Miss Lucy Thomas a warm welcome, so she can go into all the details for us.
Hello, everyone, and again, thank you for joining us today. Just before I get started on the veterans' benefits, wills, probates, and trusts, please make sure that you know the difference between a life insurance policy and an accidental life insurance policy. Oftentimes, families come in and I have this insurance policy, it's worth this amount, and we find out that it's an accidental death policy. They do not pay a burial benefit if it's an accidental death policy. You get them all the time in the mail, from your credit unions, from your banks. It's a free $2,000 policy. You can get it for 50 cents and whatever. But read the fine print. If it's an accidental death policy, it is only going to pay if you die in an accident. And that's just not always the case, okay? So we want to make sure about that. The other thing I want to say briefly about insurance. I tell families and those people seeking life insurance is not an inheritance. So when you put people on as your beneficiary, you have to know their mindset, you have to know their personality, because if you wrong me and I'm your beneficiary, that is my money, my inheritance. I can do what I want with it. So you want to make sure that that insurance policy is applied properly. It's not an inheritance, and as Marissa briefly mentioned, and Makara as well, if you're putting a child on a policy, and that is perfectly fine, that is okay. Just make sure that there is an adult or someone 18 or older on the policy, and then do percentages. Make sure that the child gets 50% if that's your choice, or 60% or 40%, and the adult gets the other portion so that they will be able to bury you. Now, I've had that case many times where the grandchild is the beneficiary. And of course, mom is thinking, well, I can bury mama because she has a policy. No, you cannot. That money will stay in trust until the child is of majority age of 18. At the age of 18, the insurance company or the trust company will ask you, do you want it to go 3 more years to age 21? I don't think there's a funeral home around that's going to keep your body until that person is 21 years old. Just so, excuse me, I don't know what's going on here. But let us now talk about trusts, wills, and probates. I am not an attorney. Please seek proper legal advice, but I do know quite a bit about it. Do you know the difference between a will and a trust? Anybody? Do you know probate? Now, most people will do a will because, we are used to that. But if you make out a will, it will have to go to probate. Nothing will be dispensed in that will without it going to the courts. You getting a probate lawyer, the lawyer spending 2 or 3 years on your dime trying to get what mom wanted dispensed. So if at all costs, avoid a will. Do a trust. Now you have different kinds of trusts. You have irrevocable trust and you have revocable trust. And by the way, a will can be changed at any time. A will can be written on a piece of paper, a greasy brown paper bag, a boiled up napkin, on the palm of your hand, if need be. So don't think because you have a will, you cannot change it. You can. And the court is going to recognize the one with the signature and the latest date. So although, you made plans for Johnny and Johnny went astray, and then you want to give it to little Susie, and you die the next day, just make sure you date it and sign it. Okay? Now, irrevocable trust cannot be changed. It is set in stone. That is the way it is. Most millionaires and billionaires, they have those kinds of trusts. Revocable trusts, I am the owner of a revocable living trust. Everything my husband and I own is in that trust. I am a trustee, he is a trustee. Our children are successors. We're the grantors, they're the grantee, whoever's the grantee. Should I die, one of my children will take my place as grantor. Should both of us die, both children will move up to the grantor position. Why a trust? All of our property, all of our life insurance policies, all of our bank accounts, everything that we own is in the trust. It is a revocable living trust. I can change it anytime I want to. But here's the deal. It doesn't have to go to probate. My children will not have to go to a court to decide what's going to happen to our possessions. They will take the rightful office of successor or grantor, pull out the checkbook, and write a check. No questions asked. Now, on your bank accounts, you should leave a beneficiary. If you do not have a beneficiary on your bank account and it is not a joint account with your spouse or your sister or one of your children, it is really important to put a beneficiary. Why? Because oftentimes you have money saved and you pass away. And your daughter comes in and she says, well, I know mom's got money in the bank. She's got over $100,000 saved. But mom left no beneficiary, and she's the only one on the bank account. Daughter can't do anything without going to the courts, getting a letter of administration in order to get enough money for your funeral. So please go back and think about these things and look at them to make sure that you are providing for your children and grandchildren in the easiest and best manner. Now, probate can take 3, 4, 5 years. And who's getting paid? Who gets paid?
The lawyer.
The lawyer. So when it's all said and done, after you've paid 3 years of legal fees, there's nothing left for you. So try to avoid probate. And of course, seek legal advice so that it is done properly. A trust is not something you want to write yourself. Although they do have at the Office Depot and those other stores, you can get a kit and it's a fill-in-the-blank document. And in Florida, you are allowed to fill in the blanks. And you have it notarized and recorded. Now, recorded is undeniable proof that it exists. Does it have to be recorded? No, it does not. But undeniable proof means the court recognizes it. Nobody's going to challenge you on it because it's recorded. Same thing with a will. A will does not have to be recorded, but if it is recorded, then everybody knows what your wishes are, and of course you have to go to probate. I don't want to spend a lot of time on that because, as I said, I'm not a legal expert on it, but it is something that I advise everyone to do. If you own a house, and right now property is at a prime rate, everybody's house is at least $400,000. You need a trust because you're going to leave an asset behind that's worth $500,000, and you want to make sure that it is protected and it goes to the right person. Are there any questions or comments or anything I can clarify for you between a trust, a will, and the evil probate? Everything's good? Please, let's make sure we're taking care of our loved ones. Every day in the funeral home, we come up with different scenarios, and I've gone up against Broward County courts a lot. And these are not little packages you have to fill out. But if you leave this earth and your plans are not in place, it will be difficult for your family. Funeral homes do not work on credit. There is no layaway unless you do a pre-need. There is no buy time, buy here, pay, no, buy here, pay here, buy here, pay here, and everything must be paid. So let's take care of those things before we need them, okay? Now, if there are no other questions, if something else pops in my head about it, I'll blurt it out. But right now, I think I've given you enough to think about and enough to do the research and seek information. Trust is the way to go. Put everything. Oh, I did mention that the life insurance policy, the beneficiary, is my trust. So when whomever passes away, they'll just sign. There's a place on all requests for funding or payout. Is this a trust? Yes. The insurance company already has my trust information. They have to simply send the first page, and the check comes in the name of the trust, goes directly into the trust account, and they have access any way they want. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now, we're going to switch gears and talk about something that's near and dear to my heart, and that's veterans. Are there any veterans here? Or anyone know a veteran? Okay. Most of the veterans that we are seeing now are Korean War veterans, World War II veterans. There's still some left around, and the notorious Vietnam era veterans. They didn't even call it a war. The Vietnam era. And those veterans are the ones that are now seeking benefits. And there are a lot of benefits for veterans, not just burial benefits, but housing and health, mental health benefits, all kinds of benefits. I don't have it with me, and I left it at the office, but there are two pieces of paper that a veteran needs. His discharge paper, which is a certificate, and that certificate will tell you honorably discharged, dishonorably discharged, less than honorable discharge, and their DD-214. The DD-214, it's a computer-generated sheet. It has their entire military history, the date they enlisted, the date they exited. The ones from long ago had their blood type. All of that information is on your DD-214. As long as your discharge paper says honorable discharge, you are entitled to be buried into a veteran's cemetery, a national cemetery. You can go to Arlington. You can be buried in, I don't think Hawaii has one, but in any of the 49 states plus Puerto Rico. Florida is fortunate because we have 9 national veteran cemeteries. California has 9, and the only state with more than Florida and California is Virginia with 15. I made arrangements for a veteran to be buried in Las Vegas, Nevada. We did everything. He knows his family has all of the information. When he passes, all they have to do is get him to Nevada. They make one phone call, they pull it up in the computer, boom, done. So you can be buried anywhere in a national cemetery if you are honorably discharged. If your discharge is less than honorable, it is a case-by-case situation. It means that you got into some kind of trouble in the military and they were not too happy with it and they gave you a spank on the hand and then you were discharged. I find now that veterans are trying to reverse that because a lot of what they did at that time is no longer a high-class crime because of the laws have changed. But it is a process and it takes a long time. Now, any spouse of a veteran can be buried in a veteran cemetery. The dependent child of a veteran. Dependent child meaning less than 18. If they're under 18, they're your dependent. Or if they're disabled, they're your dependent. You can also give up your space to another family member, but it has to go through the National Scheduling Office. They're going to verify that you're eligible. You're going to sign off that you do not want to be buried in that space, that you want to give it to John Doe, and they will allow you to let that person be buried in your space. There are military honors for each branch of the service. They come out to the service. They give you the 7-gun salute or 3-gun salute depending on your rank, 21-gun salute for enlisted and officers. They will do that. They will fold your flag and give it to your family member. I think we're still closest to Lake Worth. The cemetery in Lake Worth, if you've not visited, it is an interesting place to see. Everything is precision. They give you a 15-minute appointment. They're on military time. They're on point. You have 15 minutes and you're out. They have changed the laws a little. Upon request, you can request that you go with the body to the gravesite. You won't be able to go directly to the gravesite like we do in other cemeteries. They will have you stand 2 or 3 rows away, but you will be able to see them put the body down, which is a change because usually when they leave the pavilion, that's it. You don't see anything else. Now, the veteran cemeteries are open 7 days a week. There are no burials on Saturdays or Sundays. Burials only take place Monday through Friday, but the cemetery is open for your visitation 7 days a week. Now, as I said, we're getting the Vietnam era veterans. Most of them have PTSD. Is that right? Post-traumatic stress. Yeah. No, I got it wrong. Post-traumatic stress syndrome. Okay. I always get it mixed up. But that is real. That is real, people. Now, for some reason, they have suppressed that for 30 or 40 years. I read an article not long ago that after 40 years, it is manifesting in these veterans. And it is a lot to deal with. You don't know which personality is going to come out. You don't know who is inside there waiting to escape. And as a spouse of a veteran, as I said before, I didn't serve a day in the military, but I have the best health care coverage in the world. I have a monthly check. I didn't serve a day, but trust me, I am serving now. I am serving as we speak. And it ain't nothing nice some days. So you know, when you meet these veterans and they tell you, oh, I was in Vietnam, don't ask them. Do not ask them, how was it? That is the wrong question. Don't ask them, how was it? Just say, thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. Because if you ask them, how was it? And it's strange, they take you all the way back to Vietnam. They know the name. They know the, the cities. They just create this horrible, horrible picture that they just carry around with them inside. Stories of children being blown up, children shooting people. Do not ask them that. Just don't. Do not. Just say thank you for your service and try to move on. Now you find those that get stuck right there. And I don't know why they like to watch war movies. I come home and he's watching a war movie. Why are you watching that? Now I've got 2 more days of warfare. It's I make light of it, but it happens. It happens, and we do thank them for their service, but that is the only war, and probably the Ukrainian war. Oh, don't forget Desert Storm, Desert Shield. There's another one, the Iraq. Don't forget those, because they don't get the recognition that World War I, World War II veterans and the Korean veterans, they don't get that kind of recognition. But there are also benefits for what they call brown water and blue water. Brown water veterans are the veterans that were on Navy ships or in the Marines, and they were in port, but they didn't go into Vietnam or into Desert Storm or into Desert Shield. But they were close enough for the herbicides and the pesticides that they sprayed them with to reach them. And then you have your blue water veterans. So, there's a lot about veterans. We have the hospitals, we have the cemeteries, we have spousal support, we have dependent children support. Children of veterans that receive 100% disability, they get a stipend to go to college. I was a benefactor of that stipend. I got some free schooling on that, love to learn. So there are benefits. You may not be a veteran or have a veteran in your household, but you may know a veteran. Encourage them. Encourage them to seek help. Go to the, what's your nearest hospital? West Palm? There's the VA. It's magnificent. Encourage them to go seek mental health, seek health and wellness. They even have a health and wellness program. They have a dietitian program. They help people with diabetes. They map out their meals. They send exercise programs. Let's encourage these veterans to seek help. When you tell a veteran about the VA, they think war. I don't know what it is. They do not want to go. A lot of them that we see on the street, and there's no need for that because they have housing. There are VA foster homes, VA assisted living homes, there's a community where built from the ground homes just for veterans. Most of them don't want to follow the rules, and that's why they're standing on the corner. No veteran in America should be on a corner unless by choice. The benefits are there, the programs are there. Let's encourage them to seek the help, not just after they're gone. Let's help them now to be better citizens, to be a better version of themselves. Let's try to help them forget, which if that's ever possible, to forget what they witnessed. I always tell them, I don't know what you saw over there. I don't know what you did over there. I don't want to know. Don't tell me, because I don't want to testify. Do not tell me. Do not tell me what happened. And these boys were, my brother went at 16. He only made it as far as Korea because of his age. My husband was in Vietnam at the age of 19, fighting with, I don't know what kind of gun, a big gun, and walking point at the age of 19. Just a child. There were children, we sent men children to fight a war. And they came back scarred and battered. So the benefits that they have, they're entitled to them. I think they suffered more than any other War, I think they lost more men during the Vietnam War because it was so long. Unlike World War I, World War II, drop a bomb, it's over. But no, they suffered and they fought. So it's in the funeral business, it's our pleasure to work with families to get them buried, to get them the headstones. They will provide a headstone. They will provide memorial markers. They give you all the stuff. You just have to ask for it. So if you have a question, just call Miss Jackson. If Miss Jackson doesn't know, she knows how to reach me. I'm not on this end much, but I will find your answer, and I'll get it to the person that will get it to you. Are there any questions about veterans benefits or VA programs? Remember, let us encourage them to seek help. It's okay that your mind is a little twisted. That's okay. We got a program for that. You know, yes, sir.
This is not a question. My father was a World War II veteran. He was away for 6 years, and he never spoke about it.
They don't.
Never. The only time he ever spoke about it was there was a doctor lived near us that was also served, and they would meet and talk. But he would never talk about it to anybody else.
Right.
And I know from a few words that he said that it was pretty horrific. And he was just doing what he could. But anyway, he's gone now. You know, but,
God bless his soul.
it's,
They never talk about it.
no.
I don't know what happened over there. I don't know what they saw, what they did, but do not open that can of worms. Leave the lid on it. Just leave the lid on it. So if you have any questions or if you know anything, just get the question to Miss Jackson, and I will find the answer and get it to her if she doesn't have it at hand, because we have to help them. We have to help them, and we have to help their families.
Well, thank you, Miss Lucy. Very informative. I hope you all got some valuable information. So our closest VA is burial location is Lake Worth. I think it's our middle point from our south to you guys a little north from us. So there's no cost to you as a veteran or your spouse or your dependent child, like Miss Lucy said, for you to be buried there. So you would only have to worry about covering funeral service costs. So the burial is, I don't like to use the word free, but it's a good benefit. It's no cost to you. Okay, but essentially it's free. In layman's terms, it's free. So also we touched a little bit about pre-need payments, things of that nature. We have the next individual, which is Mr. Charles Spates. He is going to go over grief. Briefly just discuss grief because this is a funeral industry and that is a part of it. And he's just going to go over a little bit about grief, okay? So if we can all welcome Mr. Charles Spates, the funeral director here in Port St. Lucie.
Good afternoon again, everyone. Haven't we received some great information on today? Let's give our previous presenters a round of applause. And we certainly do pride ourselves with being able to be a full-service facility for our community. We do not take it lightly to be given the opportunity to be of service, to be of information base, of support for our community. For certainly, we do count it an honor to be here. Hopefully, you choose us for all of your funeral service needs. But if you don't, we don't know who else to call. All right? we Ghostbusters, call the Ghostbusters. But we certainly are here to assist you with anything that you might need assistance with, and we do stand firmly on that. I know I don't want to overly inundate you with too much information that we have received so far, so I'm just going to briefly touch on some things that we do experience when you have to come into a funeral facility. Now, there are 5 stages of grief. Those stages are denial, they are anger, bargaining, depression, and the final is acceptance. So you might say all those different stages that I could possibly go through with denial, with anger, depression, acceptance. How can I go through so many things at one time within a short span? Many people can experience all 5 within a week. some within 20 years. It takes everyone a different time frame to experience and approach the different issues that they might face. So just a brief synopsis of denial. The first stage of this theory is denial helps us to minimize the overwhelming pain of the loss. As we process this reality of loss, we are also trying to go into the survival of the emotional pain. It can be hard to believe we have lost an important person in our lives, especially when we have just spoken with this person within previous days or weeks. The second is anger. It is common to experience anger after the loss of a loved one. Why am I angry? What I've come to experience and understand that oftentimes when we go into that anger stage or the depression stage, the fear of the unknown. Most times we've depended on that person so much. Most times that person has been the one to go to, the rock, the leaning post, to handle the business matters, to handle all the things that you've even heard today. The pre-needs, the trust, the insurance, the paperwork, the billing, the light bill, the water bill, everything of our lives. So now, wow, I have to deal with this. How could this take place now? Now I have to go through these phases alone. So those are things that it frightens many people, and many people take fear and turn that into anger. So those are things that you will experience. But keep in mind that anger does not require us to be vulnerable. It tends to be more socially acceptable to admit that we are scared. The next would be bargaining. Bargaining is coping with the loss. It isn't unusual to feel this, but it's so desperate that you are willing to do almost anything to alleviate or minimize the pain. Some people turn to alcoholism, unfortunately. It happens. Those of our veterans, we've had a story here of his father served in World War II. Many have turned to other alternatives to help them make it through the loss of a loved one. Little pin note here, we do have licensed counselors on staff. We do have relationships with many people that could assist with through phases like that. We have our local hospice facility that have pre-need counselors. I'm calling Mrs. Bell's position here. Counselors on staff that could assist you. VITAS, local veterans hospital. Local churches have many ministries within their church that could meet the need of those who are facing such traumatic experiences of even going through bargaining, of the loss of a loved one. The feeling of helplessness can cause us to react in protest by bargaining. The fourth is depression. During our experience in processing grief, there comes a time when our imaginations calm down and we slowly start to look at the reality of the present situation. And our final is acceptance. Though it's hard, we finally come to that phase of realizing life must go on. We have families, businesses, different things that we must continue to run. We cannot continue to live in the past because we cannot redo it, but we can move forward and accept what needs to be done. So with that being said, acceptance is when we come to the place of acceptance. It is not that we no longer feel the pain of loss. However, we are no longer resisting the reality of our situation. So those are phases of grief that we all will experience. If you're living, you're going to take a loss. If you're breathing, you're going to have a problem. So that's one thing that is inevitable, that all of us are going to face trouble. All of us are going to face grief. We're going to face it. Many people take it in different ways. But again, as I've stated previously to this, that we are here, and Mrs. Lucy as well, Mrs. Bell has said, we are here to help you. We're here to help you. We do not take this position as just in employment. We have chosen this as our careers. This is our life. We have invested ourselves into our community. So we are once again letting you know that we're here. And that's why we're putting together such events as this, to let you know there is information that is there that is accessible to you that we can assist you with outside of just death. We are here to assist you in any way, shape, or form. So we thank you so much for coming out on this afternoon. We thank you for the information that you have received, and hopefully you take this and internalize it. And if you have any questions, feel free to give our office a call, and we will meet the need. Thank you so much. That's fine.
Thank you, Mr. Spades. We appreciate that. So that was actually our last presenter for today. If any of you do have any questions or you think about something a little bit later and you want to give us a call, like we all said, please feel free to do so. Email us, write us, stop by. If you want to, for whatever reason, make an appointment because you thought this was great, and wow, I thought in this hour that we've been talking, all my future plans, what I want to do, how I want to be remembered, and I want to go ahead and put pen to paper, please do call us as well, make an appointment. We'll be glad to help you. If you know anybody that may value this information, it is being live streamed. You can watch it again if you missed something. You can share it. We can always send that link out to you at a later time so that you can review it and share it with your friends, your families, things of that nature. Part of the process of doing your pre-arrangements as well, they kind of go over the different service types for the funerals, whether you want to be buried or cremated, donated to science, sent to the moon, whatever your desire is, the funeral home will be able to help you. There's so many different types of services that we do offer, not just the regular traditional ones. We want to personalize it as best we can for you. If you were into motorcycles or horseback riding or whatever it is, and you say, you know what, I was a biker and I was a part of a biker crew, and you want your bike, rolled in next to your casket or next to your urn, or you just want your bike there, you don't want to be present, that's an option as well. It's just to personalize you, how you want to be remembered, your thoughts, your feelings, and just basically how you lived your life. So thank you all. Do you have any questions? Any questions? Okay, before we, yes. Questions, comments, concerns.
I just want to say something. Mm-hmm. What you've done here to help me has been incredible.
Oh.
Because, and I know I'm going to cry now.
Oh.
But, I mean, I'm here in Port St. Lucie with my wife. She dies.
Oh.
Hospice, and you helped me so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That is exactly what we're here for, and we appreciate it so much. I'm gonna start crying too. So, but you know, it's moments like these that make our job so much more special, because no one wants to have to go through this. No one wants to come here. No one wants to sit down with anybody. So the fact that you do decide that you want to come here and you choose us as your funeral home of choice, it warms our heart tremendously, because this is our passion, this is our life desire, and our hope is to help everyone. And if we can't help everyone, we can help one, and that one may spread the word. So we thank you all so much for coming. Before I start eating a tissue, I'm going to end it here, and I don't want to be all over live stream crying. So thank you so much. There are refreshments here still for you to take. Enjoy. We're not kicking you out or anything like that. Our home is your home, so enjoy yourselves and mingle if you like. Okay. Thank you so much. My name is Marissa, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.